What's your favorite scary movie? An obsession is an idea or thought that continually preoccupies or intrudes on a person's mind. I first saw Scream in early 1997, not long after its December 1996 release. I was only 8 years old and didn't see it in theaters, unfortunately. I saw it at a friend's place on Black Market. That's what we in the Black community called it at the time, which is pretty much when someone illegally filmed a movie in the theater with a camcorder. They would then sell it on the streets. My friend's mother bought a copy and brought it home for us to watch. She was great. I had no idea what I was in store for. I knew it was horror, and that was it. Even at 8 years old, I loved horror movies. We started watching and I saw Drew Barrymore. I didn't know who she was at the time. Her character Casey started talking on the phone with someone whom we soon saw was wearing the Ghostface mask. I was instantly obsessed. I ended up buying the mask a couple years later when I started working under the table at a newspaper warehouse. After Casey's demise, as we know, I was introduced to Sydney for the first time. I had no idea that she'd become such a big part of my life, that she would awaken the fight in young, closeted, confused, scared, insecure 8-year-old Kevin. Even before her interaction with Ghostface, I felt a stoic energy from her, and I feel like a lot of that came from the acting performance that Neve Campbell gave. I wanted to learn more about Sydney. Early on, I learned a bit about her mother, Maureen, but not much, obviously, because she wasn't around, so you didn't get to see her. I was intrigued by her. I wanted to know more about her. We got to meet Neil Prescott, but where was Maureen, I wondered as a kid. I'm then introduced to Billy Loomis, who climbed through Sydney's window trying to get his freak on. At 8 years old, I had no idea that Billy was the killer. I was so mesmerized by this story that I never stopped to think of who the killer could actually be. Obviously, we learned later that it was Billy and Stu, but my first time watching, I was just taking it all in. I was truly blown away. Next, I was introduced to Tatum Riley. Meeting Tatum for the first time as a closeted gay kid, bitch, I loved her right away. She immediately gave off this take no shit attitude, and I wanted to know more about her. More on Tatum later. We are then introduced to the rest of Sydney's friends group at the fountain outside of Woodsboro High, including Stu, a very unserious bro who was dating Tatum, followed by Randy, a nerdy, funny video store clerk who knew a lot about movies. I thought they were all so cool as a kid. I wanted to be a part of their circle, a part of their world, if you will. I actually wanted to attend Woodsboro High with Sydney and her friends. I was invested, okay? And I just thought that the characters were so well developed. It made me want to connect with them. What a time to be alive. Next, I met Dewey, as he's in Principal Hembree's office during interrogations after Casey Becker's death. 8-year-old Kevin thought Dewey was fine, but I seemed to like Tatum a lot more. Tatum was just that bitch to me, and she had my fag heart jumping. Now, later that night would be Sydney's first ever phone call with Ghostface. Bitch, it would be the moment that changed her life and mine, believe it or not. Just from her conversation with Ghostface alone, before shit went down, the tone of Sydney's convo was different from Casey's convo with Ghostface. Granted, you could see that Sydney was afraid as the conversation progressed, but I saw fight in her eyes, even at a young age. Sydney's fight ignited my fight, the impact, okay? But we really saw a fight when Ghostface told her she'll die just like her mother, and she said, fuck you, and then he attempts to attack her. But bitch, little did Ghostface know that Sydney was a fucking thug. She kicked him and ran up the stairs and kept him away until Dewey and others showed up. Sidebar, bitch, Dewey screaming when Sydney opened the door will forever send me. Dewey. Please, Dewey. Oh my god, such a funny moment. David Arquette, give him his fucking flowers, please. Anyway, Sydney fleeing her first Ghostface attack to 8-year-old Kevin showed me just how solid and how much of a fighter she was. Next, I was introduced to Gale motherfucking Weathers, bitch, aka Aunt Gale. We had seen Sydney watching Gale on TV and saw her outside of Woodsboro High after Casey's death, but now we get to interact with her. First with Tatum, after Ghostface attempted to attack Sydney, and then when Sydney knocked her ass out. Now, young Kevin wasn't fond of Gale. I felt that she just wanted her story at the expense of Sydney. I then saw Gale meeting Dewey, which, in my opinion, would become one of the greatest love stories in cinema history. I don't care. Argue with the man in your basement. I just thought they were so cute, okay? How they both really liked each other. They were so fond of each other, okay? They were excited just to see and meet each other. Just history. I got to see more depth from Gale when Sydney approached her outside of Woodsboro High. I kinda respected how she actually listened to Cotton's story and saw the doubt in Sydney's eyes. And not just Gale, but I feel the entire cast had depth. Everyone had meaning, just well-written characters. My 8-year-old imagination was huge, and it allowed me to connect deeply with the characters, probably more so than now. I was invested in them all, down to, again, Maureen Prescott. I wanted to know who she was as a mother to Sydney. I felt Maureen's absence through Sydney, and I of course wanted to know who killed her. Watching as a kid, again, I wanted to know who done it, but was mostly watching, just enjoying the thrills of it all, and never actually thought about who the killer was. I didn't consider any suspects, including Billy and Stu. I truly had no idea. Something I did think about while watching for the first time was, I wanted Sydney and Tatum to live, by all means. Sydney had already escaped Ghostface in her home, and then a second attempt in the Woodsboro High girls' bathroom after she heard those two tricks talking smack about her. Sydney baseball slid under them damn sinks, bitch. I just knew she was a survivor after that moment. Even though a lot of people do have the theory that that wasn't a killer in the bathroom at the time, that it was just someone playing a prank on her. But regardless, bitch, Sydney was gonna survive. She didn't know that, okay? Tatum would later have her first and sadly only Ghostface encounter in Stu's garage. Obviously, she didn't make it, but she fucking fought, just as I expected. And when I tell you I cheered her on the entire time, she gave Billy or Stu the business in that garage, bitch. Do you hear me? I mean, she wasn't going out without a fight. As I rewatched throughout the years with first-time watchers, a lot of them came for Tatum and called her dumb for her plan to escape through the doggy door, but I thought it was fucking cinema, okay? Tatum said, bitch, I'ma survive, and she didn't, but she had every attempt to. She went out like the badass bitch that I knew she was. And honestly, she needed to die, because those were the types of stakes that this franchise was so good at. Watching this movie over the years, I felt so many historic moments taking place, so many memorable quotes, including Randy's rules for surviving a horror movie. My 8-year-old heart was so invested in these rules in the event that I ever needed to survive a horror movie myself. And of course, those rules were no sex, no saying I'll be right back, and no drinks or drugs. As we know, Sydney did end up breaking one of the rules, which was no sex. She ended up giving up the goods to Billy. Sidebar, I never found Skeet hot in Scream. I did find him hot in The Craft. And Zaddy Skeet, okay, current 2025 Skeet, bitch, Zaddy Skeet can skeet. Oh, okay, never. I'm sorry. You get the picture. Anyway, back to Sydney. My friend and I were thoroughly concerned for Sydney after watching her break one of the horror movie survival rules. But of course, we learned that this is her movie, ho. But before learning that, we got to see more of Dewey and Gale as they shared a kiss and then attempt to catch the killers whom they thought could have been Neil Prescott after finding his car in the woods. Dewey is stabbed, of course, and then Gale finds Kenny dead on top of her van, and to this day, I still don't know how they got his big ass up there. Gale then freaks out after seeing Randy and drives off the road and hits a tree bitch. Shit was really hitting the fan at this point, and we had no idea what was gonna happen. It came down to Sydney, Randy, and Stu cause Billy and Gale had been allegedly killed. Sydney has had enough and told Stu and Randy, fuck you both. And she was halfway right because minutes later we learned that the killers were goofy ass Stu and rat-faced Billy bitch. And when I tell you I was terrified for Sydney, they had a knife and a gun. 8-year-old Kevin was asking how can she survive at this point. Sidebar, Stu killing our girlfriend Tatum, he ain't shit for that and never will be. Anyway, so Sydney is alone and then Aunt Gail motherfucking Weathers pops up with Dewey's gun. This is when I learned that Gail was a real one. If only she knew how to use the damn gun, it would have ended here. But Gail, being the focus, gave Sydney enough time to save Neil and most of the day. Gail did eventually learn how to remove the safety and saved the rest of the day, as we know. My life was so touched by this story, by this writing. I had grown to love horror movies so much after watching this as a kid. I was deeply connected, not just to Sydney, but again, to all of the characters, and I still am. After watching for the first time, my friend's mother didn't have it anymore, and I was dying for a second watch. About a year had passed, and I was no longer living near my friend. My family moved, and there was a mall within walking distance. My older brother and I walked there just to window shop because we were broke. I had different plans as we went to the mall that day. I wore some big shorts that had big pockets. There was a video/CD store at the mall called Sam Goody. I went in and managed to put the entire Scream VHS tape into my shorts pocket, but I quickly learned, bitch, that it had a sensor on it that caused the alarm to go off in the store. The woman working told me to empty my pockets. I took Scream out and she took it from me and told me not to return to the store. I was really willing to risk it all for Scream. I also drew a lot as a kid. I was very artistic. I eventually started drawing comics that resembled Scream 1996. My mother found them and grew very concerned with my Scream obsession. I actually watched it with her once as a kid, and she thought I was just too into it, that I would grow up to be a Billy and Stu, perhaps. But little did she know that I just wanted to be all these kick-ass women. That's what good writing and good character development will do though. They make the characters relatable. It causes you to think about the story and the characters long after the credits roll. That's what Scream 1996 did for me, and that is why I am obsessed. And I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll be right back. Till next time.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.